We're going to turn straight to the body before we do any building. So I want to remove this area here, get this all cleaned up, these little seam lines here, sand that down, get it super smooth. And then I think we're going to build the area there, and we'll go straight into the paint on this one. This piece here wasn't the best fit. We've had to do a bit of sanding already, but there is definitely a seam there. So we're going to get the putty out, and we're going to fill that seam and get this all nice and smooth before we get any paint on. The P4 was an aluminium body, so we're going to spray this underside silver. It's time to turn this Ferrari red, and instead of using an airbrush, I'm going to use a Humbrol acrylic spray, specifically Gloss Italian Red. That's the first coat done. Now on to coat number 2. It's getting there, but it's definitely going to need a third coat. Now that that's had several coats of red, we can get the polishing compound on that and make it super shiny. Turning now to the chassis and interior, it's time to get these sprayed matte black. It's decal time. So we've got our decal soaking in the water. We have our micro set, and we're going to add that to this area where the number goes and apply the decal. Now, what's beautiful about this high gloss finish is that these decals will adhere to it very nicely indeed. This is exactly the sort of surface that you want to be attaching your decals to. This decal here is obviously on a nice flat surface and is adhering very nicely. These side decals here and this one here have got many double curves, so we are using our micro sole layer after layer to really soften those and get them to adhere to these beautiful curves. A bit of artistic license now. These are the wheels, and they're nice and chromed. And for this particular Ferrari, that's what they would be. But I want to make these gold wheels, so I'm going to get them airbrushed now. Racing ahead with the interior then. So you can see this isn't fixed yet, but we have the footwell area there. We've chromed the gear knob gate, and we're starting to turn towards the rear of the car now, and that will need to get sprayed silver, so we're going to need to do a bit of masking work there. A lot of this I'm freehand painting with a paintbrush, just to give you the impression of the colour. A lot of it will be completely hidden anyway, but the areas that you see, I really want to make sure that the paint finish is crisp and spot on. Yeah, looking good. What I've done then is I've masked off the interior area, because all of this needs to be aluminium, because you're going to see a lot of that even underneath. And while we've got the airbrush out, because we're doing large areas, we'll get on this nose area as well. Here we're adding the rear brake assembly, and I just wanted to show you this in real time to give you an idea of, well, how fiddly it is and how long it takes. So we start with a little bit of glue there, and as you can see, this is basically just balanced. So we do that on the other side, and before that sets too much, we've then got the metal axle which we need to threadle through, and you can see that here. And you can see these are still very soft and not properly set, but that's what we want, because otherwise they'll dry wonky. Threadle that through there, all the way to the other side, and there you have it. That is your rear brake and axle assembly done. And then we turn our attention to the front brakes. Just gluing those in. The suspension arm there holds that in place, very similar to the GT40 build. And yeah, this is the tub area looking pretty good. Just going to get a bit of a wash on the transmission there. Just pick out some of those details. You see I'm using an ammo panel wash. Black Knight. Same on the radiator at the front there. Just really pick out those details. There you have it then. That's the chassis pretty much done and ready for the exterior shell to sit on top of that. Before that, however, we've got these photo etch seat belts. We've got the decals here, which you can see have been soaking in water. And then they go on there like so. And you can see I've already painted the metal with a black primer. I've left the buckles bare metal because obviously that's what we want. And at this point, this was looking really good. I was very happy with it. But then disaster struck. So here you can see a bit of overspill with the glue on the windscreen. So I tried to rectify this. So blending it in first with the liquid cement and then getting our sandpaper down. And you can see here we've got all these different coarse grit sandpaper sheets. And I'm just going to work that. Now, I have to say, I did get to a point where I almost salvaged this. It then started to go wrong even further, which we'll come on to in a moment. But what I'm showing you here could be a solution. So I'm just working that through, getting that as fine as you possibly can. And then adding some polishing compound onto there. And there you can see, that is not too bad. I mean, it's not perfect. And yeah, I kept going. I wasn't going to give up. But again, it was one of those things that just, once it went wrong, it was just going to get worse and worse. So straight away, there's way too much polishing compound on there. That then started to lift the screen. So you can see we're turning our attention now to the front headlamps. And then I started to mask up the windows. Now this is a good technique. So what we're doing here is we're applying the masking tape, then using our fingernail just to get the natural ridges there. And then I've got a cocktail stick here and I'm really poking that right in, making sure it's nicely attached, following the contours of the plastic. This is a technique that I do on my aircraft models. Do check out my sister channel, the Male Modeler. I'll put a link in the description. Right, yeah, so here we have a very sharp scalpel and we're just following those lines that we created. So like I say, at this point, we'd pretty much salvaged it. And you can see you've got a nice high gloss finish there. Probably just needed another polish with the polishing compounds and would have looked pretty good. But
because of what had happened with the windscreen and because of these decals that I'm applying here, I had the bright idea of giving it another coat of varnish. And that's when it well and truly went wrong. You'll see that in a second. But before that, we are applying the decals using Japanese instructions. I had to get a translator out to work out how to do those. Got there in the end. They all worked out okay. So just doing some detailing there. We've got the white plastic, which, the exhausts were white, but the actual whole of the exhaust is all covered in soot and black. So that's what we're doing there. And we're just wiping the excess off with some thinners. And yeah, because we're going to be doing another coat of varnish, which is going to ruin this model, we did a pin wash on the panel lines. So that was the Ammo Dark Knight panel wash, which we used earlier. And okay, you can see it's looking pretty good, pretty salvaged. And then I don't know what happened with this mix, but the varnish just came out horrible. You can see that on the windscreen there. And you can see now we've got a nice matte looking Ferrari rather than the high gloss look that we were going for. And yeah, tried to salvage it with polishing compound, coarse first and then fine, but it just went horribly wrong. And I mean, quite frankly, I was almost not going to do this video, but unfortunately I looked up the price of a new kit and we were talking £100 or more. So that's when I decided to buy Virago's rather lovely 1/24 scale die-cast car. And this particular one is going to become a heavily weathered 1967 Le Mans diorama racer. So stay tuned for that video. I do think, having looked at this, it's going to look much better weathered and you won't notice the error that I've made. But yeah, rather than throw away the video and the footage, I thought I'd show you how things can go wrong sometimes with these builds. So this is the finished kit. As you can see, it's got that sort of weathered effect, which if I tone that up a little bit, should look really good in a diorama scene, like a proper, race car that's done 24 hours around Le Mans. But yeah, not the car model that I wanted. Certainly not as good as the GT40 I did. And fear not, the Williams FW14 kit that I built after this, normal service is resumed in terms of quality. But here we can see this is Virago's 1/24 scale car. This is a die-cast one, and yeah, looks really lovely. And you can see that gorgeous high gloss finish that I was aiming for. And yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed this video. Like I say, things sometimes go wrong when you're modeling, and this is a perfect example. But join me on the next one, guys. Bye.